Well, all right, here we go. What's in the news? We're going to talk about the G7 summit and uh, some info we should know as preppers. So the when, wheres, and the whats. Well, June 15th to 17th is when the official kind of meetings and everything kicks off, but you should expect to see restrictions, disruption, increased activity from about June 10th through the 18th or 19th. What is it? Well, there's thousands of attendees, and that includes reporters, police, security, staff to manage that event. All the financial big wheels, so the G7 countries, the leaders of their banks and financial institutions, delegates, and many more will be there. It's in Kananaskis, Alberta. It's in the Kananaskis Valley, and it includes areas like Banff, Calgary, Canmore, Lake Louise, and places like that. There's going to be controlled and restricted access zones. You can get more information on the RCMP website. It's a good place to start. Banff, the town site, has information. Calgary will have some. So there's lots of places you can go to start gathering your own information. Again, that's very, very important that you actually take the time to gather your own information, make your own assessment as it pertains to your situation. What should you expect? Well, there's going to be heightened security. There's been things in the news about military vehicles coming down for that, increased police presence. So from surrounding areas, G7's been here and different elements, things like this before, and lots of Calgary police will be there. RCMP presence will be a lot higher. All kinds of different security personnel in and around the area. There's going to be traffic delays. It's going to be restricted or no access to certain areas. So both on the highways going past the sites, and you won't even be able to get into some of the sites. And this includes whether you're on foot or not. There should be drones, there'll be helicopters, there'll be patrols out and about in those areas. There'll be demonstrations and protests. Now, they won't be able to actually be in the restricted zone, so that means they'll be setting up outside of those restricted zones. So you'll see them in nearby areas. So Canmore, Banff, Calgary, there'll be protests and demonstrations in there. There are demonstration zones that are established, but that doesn't mean that's where the demonstrations and protests will be restricted to. I would assume you should expect them to further cause traffic delays and impede different access to different zones. What should you do? Well, review your plans. Do you live in those impacted areas? Right? Is your traffic, is your mobility going to be impaired? Your access to resources. Maybe you don't live in those areas. Let's say you live in Calgary and your plan was to bug out to a little spot that only you know about in the Kananaskis Valley. Or maybe you have to go through one of the restricted areas now to get to your bug out location or to your friend's location. Well, maybe you have to look at your plans and see, do you have, I mean, if you've done your planning properly, you've got more than one way to access your location. But if it's right in that restricted zone, there's going to be sweeps going all through there. So hopefully you just haven't built a little cabin, a little shack, stocked it with all your awesome supplies, backup security things like firearms or weapons, because if that gets found, there's going to be confiscations, I'm sure, or trouble, right? And even if it's not found, you're not going to be able to get to it. So review your plans, gather your own information, stay informed, talk to people in the areas, talk to your friends, check out the different sites that have information on these different events, protests, and things that'll be happening, so that you're ready for that. Be ready for disruption, for possible escalations. For, I mean, what if there's an attack on the leaders or the people that are at that site, right? It could spill over and impact you, even whether you're pro or con to what's going on. If you see something, say something. So again, if you see suspicious activity, what is that? So Material talk are items that seem violent in nature. So someone's putting out propaganda, pamphlets, things that are not just an opposing view, but are actually encouraging violence against parties. That could be suspicious. People talking about doing something. Items that seem violent in nature. So different, bulk purchases of materials that could be used um, for violence. Unusual activity such as observation or odd picture taking. People surveying, um, not just out looking at nature, but specifically kind of watching and looking at security patterns or locations, asking odd and detailed questions about security or G7, theft of uniforms, keys, access cards, equipment. So if you're one of the local caterers, for example, that will be out there, and some of your uniforms go missing, that's suspicious, right? You got to report that stuff. How do you report it? Well, if it's an emergency, call 911. Otherwise, there's, an email and phone number that you can report something to. So be alert to those things. We want to be good hosts. We want to be able to, whether you agree with it or not, we want to be able to put on an event and not have the bad guys ruin it. Summary. Gather your own information as we do with anything, right? Things that hit the news. Quite often that's a lagging indicator of things happening if it's in the news, but get your own information, make your own decisions, stay informed, review your plans. We should be doing this all the time, but it's a good opportunity to take a look at your plans and say, well, here's a scenario, right? Something thrown in there that suddenly, something outside of your control has maybe impeded your plans for bugging out, bugging in, getting access to resources, contacting friends, meeting up with your mutual aid group, whatever it is, look at your plans and say, how does this impact it? It's the same thing as looking at your plan saying, what would I do if the power went out, if the road was washed out, if there was a hurricane, a tornado, cyber attack, right? This is something that could impact your plans. Be alert, be aware, stay strong, keep prepping. Thanks for watching. I hope you like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.